Hi, Rossmoor Travel Club. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate that. So the folks who were just in Ireland had sunny weather the whole time, which is not something we can guarantee when you travel with us or to Ireland ever, but you know, sometimes it happens. So, yeah, my name's Kevin Haas. I've been working for Grand Circle and OAT for about 10 years. I drove down from Truckee today, from the mountains, still some snow up there. I first fell in love with travel as an exchange student in Italy. I was lucky enough to go abroad to Italy my second semester of my junior year of high school. I lived with a host family. I learned how to speak Italiano. I went to high school there, and I just thought, wow, I got to explore more of the world. I want to learn more languages. I want to see more, travel more, and I've kind of been hooked ever since. You know, you never like run out of places to go to when you like travel, right? The more you travel, you say, oh, now I want to go back and see more. It's kind of contagious, and you just want to travel more and more. So I have the travel bug, and we're going to talk about some trips today. Just to kind of recap where we've been this year in 2025, we had Helen and some others join us for a voyage from Greece to Albania. We had Cindy Irwin and some others go to South Korea and Japan. And then we had Kathy Briner lead some folks to Ireland, which Linda Lovell just mentioned with that sunny weather in Ireland. And then we have Eileen, who's over in Europe right now with us in the Baltic capitals. And then later this fall, we have Spain and Portugal, the Spanish Paradores and Portuguese Posadas with Linda Lovell. And then the Ancient Kingdoms in Southeast Asia with Mary Mead. All those trips are full, but I will say we always have cancellations. So if there's any trip I talk about, there's not space or it's full, feel free to talk to the trip host, and I'll kind of be calling on them to stand up and wave their hands so you know who they are, because you can always get on a wait list. We do have openings that always seem to open up, especially on some of these trips that are far in advance. So upcoming trips for 2026, some of these I'll be talking about in more depth, but we have Vietnam in January, hosted by Bert Sibilia. I don't think is here. Eileen Lynette is in Europe. She's doing Tunisia in the spring. We have the Azores going in the spring, hosted by Robin Sewell. That's incorrect. Is Robin here today? Well, I don't think she's here. And then we have Romantic Villages of Alpine Europe, hosted by Kathy Briner. If you're interested in that trip in June, go talk to Kathy here in the purple shirt. And these other trips I'm going to talk about one by one, so I'll introduce folks as we go along. So as Linda mentioned, just to be clear, Grand Circle and Overseas Adventure Travel, sometimes referred to as OAT or OAT. It does not stand for Old American Travelers. That is not true. Those who go to Southeast Asia with us later this year might think it stands for O, another temple. Also not true. It stands for Overseas Adventure Travel. But we're the same family, same company. So Grand Circle, OAT, they're just different brands, okay? There's a lot of similarities in terms of learning, education on trips, but the main difference is the group size. With OAT, it's always small groups. I know a lot of you have traveled with us before, so I'm just going to go through this really quick, and then we're going to jump into the details on trips. We also have a brand, Grand Circle Cruise Line. We're going to talk about two of those trips today. That specifically refers to our river ships on the European rivers. As we also have a fleet of 5 small ships, that's what we call them. Small, by our definition, means holding between 50 to 98 travelers. They're mostly based in the Mediterranean year-round. A couple of them go further north in the warmer summer months. But they're on the OAT brand because of the small group size on the ships. So on land, we do small group sizes of no more than 16. On the ship, it's no more than 25. So that's just kind of the difference in the brands, is the group size. On our land tours, many of you know this, we don't charge single supplement fees, kind of unique in the travel industry. If you can get a single cabin on one of our cruises, there is a single supplement charge, okay? What's unique about OAT? Home-hosted visits. Cultural deep dives. We want you to meet the locals when you travel on trips. We want you to learn and talk to them and sit down for lunches and dinners and that kind of thing. Also talk about controversial topics. We're not talking about controversial American politics. We're talking about what are the topics that concern the citizens there. Like, well, maybe I'll save them for the slide. But for example, in the Mediterranean and Sicily and Malta, we're going to talk about the anti-corruption activists in Malta. We'll talk to members of the mafia, like someone who had to flee Sicily and came back, and someone whose family member was part of the mafia. You know, that is, in Sicily, that's a controversial topic. Those kinds of things. We want you to sit down with locals, talk to them, so you can learn more. And we'll also visit sites that our foundation supports, which mostly support schools around the world. But generally, a lot of folks tell me they keep traveling with OAT and Grand Circle because of our guides. We are crazy about trying to retain and attract the best guides possible. We're really serious about it. We're serious about training them, getting feedback. We always try to have the best guides. Okay. And I mentioned the foundation. On some trips, you will visit a foundation site, which can be kind of fun. Every trip you take with us, a little bit of that money goes to support our foundation. And they're doing some clean water initiatives around the world. They support some UNESCO sites. When there are like earthquakes in Nepal, they have folks on the ground who can help. We actually donated money to the LA Fire Department after the fire in Pacific Palisades. So they do a lot of work, a lot of good work. So just to recap on some trips that still have space for 2026, and then I'm going to go more into depth in 4 trips in the second half of 2026. We have our trip with space in Tunisia from the Mediterranean to the Sahara in late April to May. Eileen Lynette, the host, is traveling right now, so she's not here. But hopefully there are some flyers in circulation if you're interested in that one. There is still space. Also, the Azores and Madeira, these islands off the coast of Portugal and the Atlantic. Portugal's unspoiled archipelagos. You basically spend time on 3 different islands. Still space on that for late May. Robin is the host, Robin Sewell, who is not here today. And then in June, we have Romantic Villages of Alpine Europe, hosted by Kathy here in the purple shirt. Talk to her if you're interested in seeing all the wildflowers in the Alps in June of next year. Still space on that. And then, yeah, sorry, the very top is getting cut off here. We have Ultimate Africa, Botswana, Zambia, and Zimbabwe Safari for August of next year. That's August into September, which is a really good time to go. Let's talk about this trip. So actually some folks signed up today. There's not a lot of space left, but you could get on a wait list. On this trip, we stay in all of these really remote camps in the bush. We use charter planes to get to these different camps. So first you fly into Johannesburg, which is far away from San Francisco, unfortunately, but you gotta spend some time in a plane to get there. From Johannesburg, we're gonna go over to Victoria Falls, and then you're going to use Victoria Falls kind of as your hub to access these different national parks in Botswana, Zambia, Zimbabwe, all around the Zambezi River and Victoria Falls. And like that is an example. That's the camp we stay at in Zambia along the river. So this trip has a lot of small flights internally to get to the bush and these different places we'll be visiting. And I have a lot of photos of animals I'm just going to go through, but you spend time in Hwange National Park. You're going to see all these animals pictured here. The only animal that's really hard to see on these safaris is generally the leopard. They're very elusive, hard to see. But yes, you will see lions, you'll see zebras, you'll see giraffes, hippopotami, all this stuff, lots of them. Some of these are photos I took on this trip years ago. And you use these open-aired safari vehicles. And at the first camp in Hwange National Park in Zimbabwe, from here we're going to do our day in the life, which is something we love doing on OAT trips. You're going to go to a village, you're going to see how they live in these thatched roof huts. You're also going to visit a primary school that our foundation supports. And you're going to sit down with these folks and have a meal with them, talk to them, see how they live their lives. From Zimbabwe, we're going to drive actually over the Zambezi River, where you see Victoria Falls on your left, fly out of Livingston Airport, named after David Livingstone, and go to Kafui National Park, where our camp is along the river here. So since we're on a river, we're going to do some boat safaris, and generally on a safari, you go on a game drive in the morning, and then the afternoon you kind of relax a little bit, have lunch, and then you go for another game drive in sort of the late afternoon, evening, just because the animals are more active at morning and the late afternoon, evening. So most days you have 2 separate game drives, and there's a lot of game drives throughout the trip. From there, we're going to cross over. We fly back to Livingston Airport, then drive over to Chobe National Park, which has some of the most, one of the densest concentrations of big game on the African continent. I mean, rivaled, of course, maybe by the Serengeti and the Masai Mara, but lots of game there. You know, Botswana, they were protecting their wildlife because they had a shoot-to-kill law. If they suspected poachers, they could just shoot and kill, and it got rid of poaching in Botswana. But I think they rescinded that law. Poaching has gone up again. They're considering bringing it back. That's one of the controversial topics we'll discuss on this trip is poaching. And you'll see these magnificent baobab trees. And hopefully you get to see a leopard. They're very elusive. That's not a photo I took. And then we'll go over to the Okavango Delta region of Botswana. Again, all these are our own private camps. So when you're with your group, you basically have your own private camp. There's camp staff cooking all the meals for you.
Slow down. Don't so fast.
Too much information all at once?
Oh, it's hard to decipher when you
Okay. All right, I'll try to speak a little more slowly here. So you'll see lots of impalas in the Okavango Delta, and conditions permitting, we'll go for a ride in the Makoros. That's a type of canoe, a traditional dugout canoe they use in Botswana. And you will see some lions at some point. Unique to this area of Africa, the vehicles can generally off-road. There's some areas of national parks in Africa where the vehicles, there's so much tourism that the vehicles are required to stay on the roads. This area, it's more flexible. So on this trip, we saw these lions. Actually, there was another vehicle and a guide, and they radioed in and say, you know, these longitude, latitude points, there are these mating lions. We have to split, but go find them. And so our driver and guide, they went off-roading, found the lions, and we got to see them and follow them. And often these camps, they'll light a fire at night. You're under the beautiful African stars. It's just a gorgeous experience. And often your safari vehicle, right, they'll do what they call a sundowner, which is basically like cocktails out on the open savanna while you watch the sunset, which is just gorgeous. Not that you have to drink a cocktail or alcohol, but you know, they have snacks and beverages, and it's just a beautiful way to wind down the day. And then the trip ends in the town of Victoria Falls, which is, of course, next to Victoria Falls. That river, the Zambezi River, bisects Zimbabwe and Zambia right there. And there's a few activities you can do there, including a helicopter ride above the falls. There's a park there where you can walk and get close, but it's just spectacular. So that's our ultimate Africa trip in August of next year. There's also an optional add-on to see Cape Town and the Cape of Good Hope. An optional 4 nights. And then you'd fly home from Cape Town instead of Johannesburg. The next trip, can you change that so we can see the very top of the slide? Or is it too tricky? So the next trip we're going to talk about is going to France to cruise on the Rhone River. This trip is hosted by Barbara Duff up here. If you're interested, come talk to Barbara. So this is going to be on one of our river ships. And I'll have some photos of the river ships so you can kind of see what your home and accommodations would be like. So this is early September 2026, Lyon de Provence in the south of France. And let's walk through the itinerary a little bit to see where we'll go. So this would be your home for 10 of the 12 nights. The Chanson This is one of our river ships. You can see the sun deck. It's a beautiful place to hang out while you're cruising down the river, though a lot of the days are packed with exploring. Sometimes the ship cruises at night while you're sleeping. Some certain scenic stretches of the river you'll cruise during the day. There you can see the lounge and the restaurant. All your meals are included when you're on the ship with us. Lower right, you see an example of one of the cabins. This ship, if you've been on river ships with Grand Circle in the past, this ship is a different layout, different types of cabins, different types of beds. It's just, yeah, it was built at a different time and is different than all of our other river ships. So we start off in the city of Lyon, and we're flying into Lyon now. This itinerary's changed over the years. So you don't start in Paris unless you add on an optional pre-trip to Paris. So if you've been to Paris a dozen times, you're not repeating Paris. But you can add it on if you'd like more time and like to go in early to Paris. So Lyon, I mean, of all the places in France, is considered the gastronomic capital of France, which must mean something in France. And we're going to explore the city here. We're here for a couple of days to explore. We'll go to a French market, of course. That's where all the fresh food is, and see how the locals shop. We'll take a guided walk and tour. And generally on these cruises, every day you have included tours and walks. Some free time built in, but always included tours every day. So after a couple of days in Lyon, we're going to work our way south on the Rhone River, getting more into the wine country along the Rhone. We'll stop in the towns of Tain and Tournon. We'll go to a chocolate factory to taste some chocolate. We'll go to Viviers, France. Walking tour, of course. And here we are in Nîmes, France, where there's an old Roman amphitheater. You're going to see a few Roman amphitheaters here in the next town as well, or further down. Then we go to Avignon. This is it's been known as the city of popes, right? At one point with turmoil in Rome, a lot of the popes kind of moved to Avignon for a little while. And they built different cathedrals and palaces, and I believe some of the popes were born in Avignon, so they had a huge influence on the papacy. So we'll explore Avignon for like a day and a half, and then we work our way down to Arles, France. Kind of known for Van Gogh. He painted some of his masterpieces there. What is it, like the Cafe at Night? Or yeah, there's a few places that you'll see that are pictured in Van Gogh paintings. Also, there's a Roman amphitheater here as well, sometimes known as Little Roma. There you see the amphitheater, you know, like a little Colosseum. The Romans left their imprint all over these Mediterranean countries. So from there we're going to actually go to a bull farm. There's bullfighting in France, although it's more famous in Spain. But we're going to go to this farm and meet they call them the gardiens. It's like the French cowboys, and you're going to see how they live, their way of life, get to meet them, and hang out on the farm. From there, we're going to disembark on the ship. We'll stop at a farm for lunch on the way, and then we're going to finish the tour with 2 nights off the ship in the pink city, the Ville Rose, right? The pink city of Toulouse. Toulouse has a few universities. It's where Airbus is located, but they have an old city center, UNESCO cathedral, and we'll be there for 2 nights in a hotel. And then you'll fly back to the US, or there is an optional post trip to spend time in Nice and the French and Italian Riviera. Let's see if that's the last one. Yeah, so that is France with Barbara Duff on the Rhone River for September 2026. Then the next trip to talk about is one of our small ships. And this trip is hosted by Linda Lovell, who was on the microphone earlier. She's here waving her hand, so talk to her if you're interested in our Mediterranean cultures and islands voyage from Spain to Greece. This is going to be November next year. Should be good weather in some of these places you'll be visiting in the southern Mediterranean. And you visit a bunch of islands, right? We're going to start, let's get a map here so I can kind of direct it. You're going to start in Barcelona, you're going to work your way all the way to Athens, with significant time on the beautiful Italian islands of Sardinia and Sicily, Malta, and then Greece. And And you're going to be, well, I'll have some photos of the ship here, I think, in a second. First, you have a night in Barcelona, which, of course, has a lot of the beautiful architecture of Antonio Gaudi. Here you see his Park Güell, which features some of his architecture, but of course, he's known for the Familia Sagrada Church, or cathedral, right, which is still under construction and is spectacular, but he also has different pieces of architecture and homes throughout the city. Barcelona also has their Gothic quarter, which is really neat to walk around. And they have a sandy beach right there. They have everything. It's a beautiful city. There's the Sagrada Familia there. And from there, from Barcelona, we're going to board our ship, the Clio, which arguably is our nicest ship that we have in our fleet. And just so you have some ideas of kind of what the Clio looks like, there's an example of one of the cabins. There's the sun deck. You can see some of the common areas there. It's a beautiful ship. So from Barcelona, we're first going to cruise over to Sardinia. We have a few days and a few stops in Sardinia. We're going to go inland to meet some folks who live kind of in the interior of Sardinia, learn about some of their folklore traditions. Sheep herding is big in Sardinia, and here you see these costumes that kind of mix like some of their sheep herding traditions with their folklore. There's a woodwind instrument we're going to learn about and get to play on and practice on this tour as well. And we'll work our way down to sort of the capital city of Sardinia, Cagliari. In Cagliari, we do a home-hosted meal. We're going to do learn that woodwind instrument. I can't remember the name of it. And we have a couple more days, or another day after that to explore Sardinia. Then we're working our way down. You saw the map earlier. We're still in Italy, and now we're going to land on the southwest part of the island of Sicily. Here's where we do our controversial topic with the former member of the mafia, the individual whose family members were killed by the mafia, fled, returned. And then we'll get on a small boat to explore an island where they make salt. Years ago, this island, it was an important Phoenician port, and it was connected. You can actually see like the road underneath the water. It was connected to the mainland of Sicily, but now you have to take a boat out to it. Mossia Island, I think it's called. And then another day, we're going to work our way along the southern coast of Sicily, and we're going to stop to visit the archaeological site, the Greek ruins of Agrigento. Some of these temples you might recognize. UNESCO took the symbol of the big temple there, Agrigento, as the UNESCO symbol. But as you'll see, a lot of the Greek archaeological sites on the island of Sicily are perched with these amazing views of the sea. They're just incredible. You're on this hilltop, you're looking at the sea. You can see why the Greek built their temples there. So we'll explore this site, and then we're going to work our way down to the island of Malta, to the city of Valletta. Here we'll explore the city, and we have a couple days to explore. So we have some optional tours where we'll go inland on the island of Malta, for example, to the smaller city, smaller than Valletta, of Medina. There's also an optional tour to visit a prehistoric site. Can't remember the name, but they're not that many prehistoric sites that are open to the public in Europe, right? But this is one of them. I want to say Hagar or something. There's another prehistoric burial site that's not included on the tour. It's really hard to get tickets to. If you go on this trip, I'll look up the name and you can try to get tickets before you go. It's really incredible. They don't even know who the humans are, like what race of people who are buried there. But it's an ancient burial site that they recently opened to the public in the last few years. From Malta, then we're going to work our way back up to Sicily, on the southeast corner of Sicily. This is to visit the city of Siracusa, or if you translate it in English, it'd be like Syracuse, right? And then that island, that peninsula on the end, is referred to as Ortygia, but it used to be one of the biggest and most important cities of Greek times. Like, could take on Rome and Carthage back in the day. So we'll see this church, this Duomo, that was once a Greek temple, and they turned it into a cathedral, of course. And we'll explore some of the streets and alleyways of old Syracuse. We have some time to explore here. There's some other Greek ruins like right outside the city center to explore too. There's like this place called Dionysus Ear, this cave to explore. There's an amphitheater, but it's also just really lovely just to stroll through the narrow streets of Syracuse. So from here, yes, then we're going to have a day of sailing. We're going to go around the boot of Italy and then get into Greece. We have a day in the life in Zakynthos, Greece. We're going to meet some local families of the small town. And after the final night on the ship, we do a farewell dinner. We're going to get off the ship and head towards Athens. But before we get to Athens, we're going to stop at the site of Delphi, the archaeological site of the Oracle of Delphi. There's a museum there as well to explore. And then finally, we'll be in the city of Athens for 2 nights at a hotel to explore the Acropolis, all the ruins there, the old city. I saw Fiddler on the roof on this amphitheater many years ago. It's an amphitheater on site. There's a lot of ancient sites in Europe. They host modern concerts and musicals. And then that trip ends, and then you fly home, or you can do some more days in Greece. We do extra days there. So that's the Mediterranean cultures and islands. It's mostly small ship cruise in November. And continuing to go, chronologically through next year. All these dates have been chronological. Then we're going to end up December 2026 with Christmas markets along the Rhine. And this is hosted by Linda Tsang, who's hard at work back there in the kitchen, cleaning up or something. But if you're interested in this trip, talk to Linda at the back. There she is. That's Linda. So she's hosting this trip along the Rhine River. This is going to include 4 countries, right? The Netherlands, Germany, France, and Switzerland. The Christmas markets are kind of unique. There's some travelers who do them over and over again. They just say it's so much fun. It's a fun way to get in the Christmas spirit. They just repeat these trips. So on this, it's 10 nights. You're on the ship the whole time. So once you get on the ship, you don't have to pack up and unpack any. On the ship, all your meals are included. And there's the price here. On all of our trips, we will sometimes advertise, here's the price, including airfare from San Francisco. Yes, you can do air with us. We're happy to do it, but you never have to include air from San Francisco. Just so you know, you can always pack out that air price and just do the tour cost on its own, do your own air, use miles, whatever. So this one's going to start in Amsterdam, and we're going to cruise south. And at the end, the Rhine River sort of is separating Germany and France, right? So you'll have Germany on the left side, France on the right side. And you'll be on the River Harmony. This is one of our river ships, just so you can kind of see what the inside of the ship looks like if you haven't been on the ship. With a sun deck, lounge, restaurant. Though it'll probably be a little chilly in December. If you're going on the sun deck, you're probably going to want a coat and a scarf. So from Amsterdam, we're first going to visit the old city of Nijmegen. It's one of the oldest cities in the Netherlands because it's kind of on a hill, right? The Netherlands, most of it's like really low, kind of below or at sea level, very prone to flooding. Nijmegen is like kind of on a little bit of a rise. Maybe we wouldn't call it a hill here in the East Bay Hills, but it's on a little bit of a hill. So historically, it was always dry. It was above ground. It's one of the Netherlands' oldest cities. So we stopped there. It's a fun city to walk around. And then we're going to cruise on the Rhine towards Cologne. But first, on the ship, we always do these on our ships. We have what we call like a Discovery Series event. We're going to learn how to make Stollen, which is like a German Christmas sweetbread. And then we're going to stop off in Cologne or Cologne. Right there, you're seeing one of the biggest Gothic cathedrals in Europe, I think the biggest in Northern Europe. And you can see a bunch of colored lights there. That's the Christmas market. And the Rhine River is just there to the right. So in these places, in the Christmas markets, if you haven't been, they're just really festive, but there's a lot of vendors, right? So shopping, but there's also things to eat, things to drink. But you're gonna see a bunch of different Christmas markets in some of these cities that have good-sized Christmas markets. So that's in Cologne. Now we're in a different city here. That's the cathedral in Mainz. So we're going to work our way down the Rhine. We'll stop in the city of Koblenz, which is an old city at the confluence of the Moselle and Rhine rivers. And in that area too, on the Rhine, you have a lot of castles. I guess I don't have a slide of it. Where on one side of the ship, as you cruise, you'll see a castle up there. You'll see another castle. They sometimes refer to it as like castle ping pong as you go down the river. And then in Mainz, let's see, here's more of Mainz. So you get to walk around these cities, see the Christmas markets. You might get some snow, if you're lucky or unlucky, depending on if you want snow. Here you see just a typical Christmas market, kind of the goods you'll see to shop for. And in Speyer, we're gonna stop for a coffee lodge. So this is our home-hosted sort of coffee and tea. It's not a full dinner, but we're gonna meet a local family and stop there in Speyer. And then we'll work our way, we'll stop in Baden-Baden, which is known for thermal springs, and we'll also stop in Strasbourg, France, pictured here. We'll go to Rickeweir, this like town known, I think they refer to it as the wine village in France. You can see the vineyards there on the lower right. And then finally working our way down after 10 nights, or 9 nights maybe here, into Basel, Switzerland. And then flights go out of Basel, and that's where the trip ends. So that's the 10 nights, Christmas markets on the Rhine. Talk to Linda at Saying if you're interested. And those are all the trips I'm going to talk about, and I'll be around to answer questions. But right now we do have a discount if you sign up before the end of May. You mentioned Explore 26. You get $250 off any of these 2026 trips. When you call in to sign up, you also have to mention a code. Every trip that we have has a corresponding trip code. And on the flyers, there's some on the tables. Each flyer on the bottom will say, mention this code when calling. So there's a unique code, but if you want to sign up before the end of the month, also mention Explore 26. And there are some of the codes for some of these 2026 trips. I'll leave that up for one moment. And then generally when you sign up for our trips, maybe I have a slide here, but it's $500 to sign up for any land tours. That's the deposit per person, $500 deposit. On the cruises, which we talked about 3 cruises today, it's a $750 deposit. Final payment isn't due until 90 days before you go. You can make any changes you like up until the 90 days. You can change your trip, remove air, add air, whatever you want to do. But we do offer a financial incentive if you're planning early. If you want to pay early from a checking account, you can save 10% by paying from a checking account 15 months before the departure date. It's sort of prorated. At 14 months, 13 months, you always get a discount by paying early. If you want from a checking account, you can always put it on a credit card, wait until the 90 days. And that's what we call the goodbye discount, is what we refer to that as, if you want to pay early from a checking account. So yeah, you call our 1-800 number to sign up. And yeah, that number is on all those little flyers you see on your tables.